Welcome to Kautilya Careers. As we know well about the Gurukul teacher recruitment process, as a part of it, in the subject area of social studies, what about the syllabus which was prescribed in main examination in the part of pedagogical concerns of social studies? Let us see the different topics which were prescribed by the TSPSC for the main examination. It is meant for 150 marks, which plays a crucial role and which can be regarded as a rank decision fact in main examination. So the government included so many concepts according to the modern concept of education, particularly the pedagogical concerns in social studies. Among them, the first unit itself, what they mentioned, the nature of social studies, nature of social sciences and its historical development. So the nature means the nature and scope of social studies and how this social sciences was developed in the world, particularly in our Indian society. How many parts are there, how many branches are there in social studies, and its scope, how all the branches are correlated to each other, you can study in this chapter in detail. So that's why what we call it as nature and scope of social sciences, historical development of social studies, and particularly with regard to school curriculum. In this topic, we can also learn about the different social scientists and their views about the social studies and its concepts. And second unit, which is followed by values, aims and objectives of social sciences. Values, aims and objectives of social sciences. What are the values of social studies? What are the different aims of social studies according to education commissions and 1986 NPE and NCF 2005? What are the different aims? Why should we teach social studies? Why should the learner is supposed to learn these social sciences as a part of school curriculum? What are its advantages? All these things along with Benjamin S. Bloom's educational taxonomy. Educational objectives are bifurcated by Benjamin S. Bloom. According to him, what are the different objectives of social sciences? Then, which plays a crucial role, that is the psychology of teaching and learning social sciences. So we have to adopt all psychological principles in classroom management. How these psychological principles works out in teaching and learning of social studies. So it is nothing but the pedagogical concerns, the pedagogical shift of social sciences into the classroom management. How can we shift the pedagogical concerns? It is nothing but how to make the child to understand, to learn, to stimulate the interest. All these concepts, so he added, this is a new concept according to the new context of B.Ed syllabus, that is psychology of teaching and learning, learning objectives as well as the writing objectives and pedagogical shift in social sciences, how that shifting takes place in classroom proceedings. It is nothing but in the process of teaching and learning methods. Then, which is followed by the fourth unit, that is social sciences about its curriculum. Curriculum, its organization, construction and development. What is meant by curriculum? What are the different topics that should be inserted in teaching and learning social studies right from primary stage to higher secondary stage. What are the different principles which are related to the construction of curriculum? And how should we organize the concept of curriculum? And what about the history of the development of curriculum in the present scenario? These all are the important things in this unit, that is curriculum. And followed by what we call different approaches and methods of instruction and techniques in teaching social sciences. So approaches means constructive approach, behavioristic approach, inductive approach, deductive approach, heuristic approach. Apart from these approaches, there are so many methods of instructions in social studies. That is teacher-centric methods, learner-centric methods, lecture method, lecture demonstration method, project-based work, discovery-based work, role play, dramatization, discussion, stories method. These all are the different methods what we can see only in social studies rather than that of mathematics and physical science. So the different approaches, different methods of instructions and different techniques. What we call this all comes under the teaching strategies of social sciences. So that's why this place each and every chapter how the teacher is supposed to teach by selecting either approach or method or technique. Which one is quite suitable in classroom management in organizing the teaching and learning process. And this is followed by 6th unit, planning for effective instruction of social sciences. So how can you plan for making the students to learn more interestingly in order to get the positive outcomes in an effective fashion? What are the different things we are supposed to take into consideration? Say for example, lesson plan, unit plan, year plan. Not only this one, what are the other techniques we can implement? Say supervised study, oral work, drill work, written work, home assignments, and the different what we call the instructions what we can adopt in classroom management to make it the social sciences learning and teaching more and more effective. So then it is followed by next unit, that is learning resources in social sciences. That is nothing but social sciences what we call the labs, social science labs, different teaching aids in social sciences in the teaching and learning process, and textbooks, the importance of textbooks and what are the different features of textbooks, and ICT in social studies, information and communication technology in social sciences. So that's why these all are the different learning resources. Say field trips, excursions, museums, so planetariums, social science labs, different audio visual aids, textbook, and modern technology what we call information and communication technology. These all are the different ways and means in the teaching and learning process of social studies. Then which was followed by measurement and evaluation. What are the fundamental differences between measurement and evaluation? How can we evaluate according to the modern concept of education in the present scenario, in the contemporary means and measures? Then we are following CCE, continuous comprehensive evaluation. As a part of CCE, there are two divisions in the examination pattern which are going to be conducted by the authorities, education authorities. That is formative assessment tests and summative assessment test. What are the different characteristics of formative assessment test and what are the different characteristic features of summative assessment test? So how can we evaluate the child's performance before starting teaching, during the process, and after the completion of teaching? what are the different behavioral changes which takes place in a child. So that's why the methods of evaluation, the different strategies in evaluating the child's performance, and the concept of CCE, and the meaning and the objectives and characteristic features of formative assessment test as well as summative assessment test. And this lesson, this unit is followed by what about the learning disabilities, difficulties of education of what we call exceptional children and disabled children. It is nothing but we can call it as the concept of simply inclusive education. So what are the different measures in the classroom management the teacher is supposed to take for improving the knowledge of these disabled children or the children with special needs, exceptional children? Simply in brief, we can call it as the principle of inclusion. So inclusive education, how far we can provide to the all these children, those who are having and who suffers with some type of physical disorders or mental disorders. Say some other children like orphans, street children, HIV diseased children, child labor. How can we inculcate, how can we provide the education for all these diverse children? So that is, in brief, we call it as inclusive principle or inclusive education. And followed by the last unit of this chapter, that is social sciences and everyday life. Non-formal social science education. So a special focus on non-formal social science, because social science can be taught not only through the formal agencies, we can also provide the teaching and learning process, we can make it as more effective through the source, that is what we call non-formal social science. So these all are the 10 units which was prescribed by the TSPSC for the main examination, which is meant for 150 marks. Say when we list out all these topics in a sequential order, the nature and scope of social studies and its historical development, the views and what we call the history of so many social scientists, and followed by the different values of social sciences, aims and its educational objectives. Then applying the psychological principles, the psychology of learning and teaching, particularly the pedagogical shift of social sciences into the classroom. Then followed by the different teaching strategies, among them different approaches, methods of instruction, and then teaching techniques. And followed by the next topic is planning for effective teaching and learning of social studies. Then the teaching aids, importance of teaching aids, what we call it as per our syllabus, learning resources. So that is what we call inside the classroom, outside the classroom. All these teaching aids, audio visual aids comes under this unit, what we call different teaching and learning resources, which is followed by measurement and evaluation, the different tools to assess, to evaluate the child's performance. As per the modern concept, about the concept of CCE, continuous comprehensive evaluation, and followed by formative assessment tests, and which is followed by summative assessment tests. And then learning disabilities and the children with special needs, what we call it as inclusive education or the inclusive principle. Then the last topic, social sciences and everyday life. It is nothing but community education, how the social sciences is linked with society, how the social sciences is linked with environment, how it is linked with what we call health. So in the different sections, different sectors, how it is linked up with societal concepts. So and which is concluded with the last topic, that is non-formal teaching and learning process of social sciences. These all are the chapters which were prescribed by the TSPSC for the main examination for the students. For TGT posts and for PGT post, the chapters are the same, but depending on the nature of the post, the difficulty level of the questions may be changed, but the concepts are the same. So there is a little bit variation between TGT and PGT, but it will be better to go ahead to go through the complete structure and the conceptual based. Why? Because that is comes under the concept of critical pedagogy. It is nothing but, in the present scenario, in this heavy competitive world, factual knowledge is not sufficient at all. In addition to that of factual knowledge, we must learn, the teacher must teach the conceptual based knowledge, intellectual based knowledge. Then only the child we can promote the child's knowledge and skills. So these all are the 10 different units which was prescribed for the main examination in this area of social sciences. Now let us see what is social sciences. Now let us see the concept of the social science. It is nothing but one eminent social scientist, philosopher, eminent educationist, Mr. Bartel, explained and defined the social studies. It is an integration of experience, and knowledge concerning human relations, which concern human relationships for the purpose of citizenship. For the purpose of citizenship education. So according to Bartel, integration of experiences and knowledge with regard to human relationship for the purpose of citizenship education. That means the main concept of social sciences is promoting a good citizenship qualities among the individuals. That's why it is the combination of experiences as well as knowledge with regard to the human relationship, so that we can promote what we call a good citizenship qualities among the individuals. That is the definition which was provided by, that is, a eminent social scientist Bartel. And then one more social scientist, Wesley. It is nothing but the social studies are nothing but social sciences. We can call social studies as social sciences. Why? Because it is simplified for pedagogical purposes. This is the most valuable definition. That means the simplified form of social studies is nothing but social sciences. That social sciences must be useful for the pedagogical purposes of the children. Pedagogical purpose means that student must become as a self-learner, self-motivator, self-evaluator. We can promote the child in the concept of intellectual metacognitive abilities. We are not supposed to provide only the factual knowledge or textual knowledge. How, why, what, when, all these questions that should come from the learner's side. Then only the learner can show interestingly, can learn the knowledge, what we call the learning by doing, learning by watching, learning by observation. All these concepts, one after one another, takes place in a systematic fashion. That comes under what we call pedagogical purpose. The teacher must give due respect to the child's views, child's feelings, child's thoughts. That in true sense, that is called a critical pedagogy. So, according to Wesley, social studies is nothing but the simplified form of social studies can be defined as social sciences for the benefit of, for the purpose of pedagogical concerns. Pedagogical concerns of whom? Pedagogical concerns of the child. Then, SEC, Secondary Education Commission, in this regard, explained and defined the social studies. It is a term comparatively new to Indian society. It is meant to cover traditionally which is associated with history, geography, polity, and economics. So this is the definition which was defined by Secondary Education Commission. It is totally a new concept to the Indian society, and most probably this social sciences was associated to what we call traditionally associated to a 4 branches. In the 4 aspects, that is history, geography, polity and economics, etc., which includes what we call these concepts includes family and community, state and nation. So these all are the different areas what social sciences, that is history, geography, polity and economics, why we are going to teach and why the learner is supposed to learn, because these concepts, these different branches of social sciences includes family, community, state and nation. All its features, all its characteristic features of family, community, it is nothing but about the society and about the state, about the nation. Sometimes it extends up to the international according to the level stage of the class. So this is the definition, a fine definition which was provided by Secondary Education Commission. In particularly, we can say that in the real picture of social studies, we can say it is nothing but social. Here S stands for social efficiency and O stands for objective attitude and C stands for citizenship training and I stands for integrated knowledge. And A stands for adaptability. And L stands for learning. These are the what we call that nature of science. We can say that the value of science, the aims of science. In social, S stands for social efficiency, O stands for objective attitude, C stands for good citizenship training, I stands for integrated knowledge. That means that all knowledge which is including the factors of family, society, nation and state. Then I stands for what we call integrated knowledge. A stands for adaptability and L stands for learning. These all are the abbreviations for the words in this word, that is letters in this word social. Then studies, we see S T U D I E S. So here S stands for sensitivity and T stands for tolerance and U stands for unbiased attitude. And D stands for devotion to ideas. And I stands for international relationship. And E stands for emotional balance. And S stands for self-discipline. So these all are the abbreviations for the word, for the letters in the word studies. S stands for sensitivity, T stands for tolerance, U stands for unbiased attitude, unchangeable, D stands for devotion to ideas, I stands for international relationships, in order to understand the concept of international understanding by individuals. It is nothing but by the learners. And E stands for emotional balance and S stands for self-discipline. These all are the different areas of that social studies. If we see all these abbreviations for the each and every letter of the word social studies, we can understand the fundamental objectives of social studies. The what type of values the social sciences promote among the children, we can observe by these what we call the meanings of these letters carefully. So social sciences also plays a crucial role in the entire concept of school curriculum in order to make and in order to promote a good citizenship qualities on democratic lines. Now let us see what are the fundamental aims of teaching social studies. Though there are so many commissions and NPE right from 1968 onwards making so many tremendous changes in the curriculum part of social sciences, but the final recommendations what we are implementing in our Indian society were postulated and recommended by NCF 2005, National Curriculum Framework of 2005. So as per this National Curriculum Framework of 2005, what are the objectives, that is what we call, particularly whenever we consider about the school curriculum, first of all, what are the objectives for teaching these social studies at primary stage? So the main objectives to teach these social sciences at primary stage is, in order to promote what we call the observation skills and identification skills and classification of objectives, classification of different objectives, and we can promote what we call holistic understanding of about environment. So for particularly, what is the difference between natural environment and social environment? So these are the basic concepts what we are supposed to inculcate at primary stage. What is the need of teaching social sciences at primary stage? As per the recommendations of NCF 2005, the social sciences can promote the skills of observation, the skills of identification, and what we call classifying the different objects and holistic understanding about the environment. It is of two types. It can make the child to understand the difference between natural environment and what we call social environment. These all are the different aims and objectives of social sciences for teaching and learning at primary stage. Then, what are the objectives of this social science at upper primary stage? At this stage, at upper primary stage, the importance and the need of teaching these social sciences is to develop the understanding about what we call as the habitat of humankind and other forms of life. In order to habitat human kind and other kinds of life. That is, what about the human beings and what about the life of other living organisms. The basic concepts and the right understanding concepts of human beings' life and other living organisms' life can be understood by the child at upper primary stage. And to initiate the learner to study about his own region, and his own state and country in the global context. Here you see, slowly we are promoting the knowledge and the skills of the learner at upper primary stage. In the context, in the global context of that environment, then the child must know about his own region, his native state, his native culture, his native heritage, his native country, how they vary from society to society, from global context to local context. All these things can be inculcated at upper primary stage. And in addition to these two things, to initiate the learner to study about the India's past with reference to what we call contemporary issues. What about the livelihood of Indian society in the past with regard to present scenario or linked or associated with that of what we call contemporary issues? These can be taught at upper primary stage. Then, to introduce the learner to the functioning dynamics of social and political institutions in society. Social institutions and political institutions, say like bank, post office, village panchayat, and what we call the elections, how it takes place for the local bodies. All these things comes under the concept of social and political context. So you have to promote this type of knowledge at upper primary stage. So these all are the concepts what we are supposed to teach to the learners at upper primary stage regarding the social sciences. Then what about that secondary stage? In the secondary stage, we can make that child to understand about at secondary, understand about economics, the concept of economics and social changes, because social sciences is also a dynamism, dynamic in nature. It cannot be static or rigid. Then we have to update the social changes which takes place in our community and how the concept of economics undergoes the different changes. All these concepts should be incorporated at secondary stage. And what we call socio-economic issues, challenges like what we call poverty, child labor, and the responsibilities of citizens in secular society like India. All these things should be inculcated at a secondary stage. Discrimination, inequalities, about the caste system, about the religious conflicts and poverty, child labor and responsibilities and rights and constitutional safeguards, fundamental rights, directive principles, all these things should be incorporated at what we call secondary stage. So these are the important recommendations of NCF 2005. How and what type of concepts are to be taught at various levels, right from primary stage to the secondary stage in high school curriculum. Now, as said by Secondary Education Commission, these social sciences includes the four main areas, that is geography, history, and polity, and then economics. How these subjects are correlated to each other? Can we isolate all these topics from each other, or we can correlate or establish that relationship among these four topics? As well defined by Secondary School Education Commission, that is what we call Mudaliar Commission, the National Curriculum Framework 98, 2000, 2005, all these recommendations were based on SEC, Secondary Education Commission. So particularly the objectives of teaching history to develop the understanding of the evaluation of human societies, how these human societies were evaluated in general and Indian society, and the civilization of that particular societies, how that civilization has taken place, what is the beginning of this civilization, how this society was evaluated in the beginning. All these things can be make the child to understand the concepts of evaluation of society and the changes which takes place right from the past to present and present to the past. And secondly, to develop the understanding through which human societies have changed and evolved. What are the different factors which makes that human societies to change? And the integrated nature of history development and of homogeneity of civilization. All civilization we can teach through the concept of history. And to develop what we call historical perspective. To develop the historical perspective for understanding the contemporary India and contemporary process of change. So Indian history and its civilization, how and when it was begun, what are the different changes which has been taken place in the Indian society and Indian history and its civilization, and to develop the inquiry and the ability to think critically, creatively, and to differentiate between the what we call obsolescent and the living and the emerging areas. All these things we can explain about that history and what we call that number of historical incidents and events and movements which has taken place right from local to global. This is a beautiful subject to teach all these things, to promote such type of skills among the children at high school level and particularly in school curriculum. And then in the same passion, the geography also takes place the need of geography to understand the different elements of physical environment, that is natural environment. So what we call where that human beings are living, to help the student to realize the human beings everywhere and try to make the best possible of their environment, which is based on what we call the geographical features. Even to help the students understand the interdependence of people living different regions, countries, leading ultimately having, though they are having different cultures and scripts, but it makes the people to understand about the different concepts and different physical environments and geographical features. It also helps the student to understand the value of cooperation effort at the local, national and world levels for developmental activities. To help the students to learn from the experiences of the people, from the experiences of the state, from the experiences of their nation, and understand their relevance to India in developing its own resources. How can we develop our own resources? So, how can we make that interactions with others? What about the developmental area which are based on the geographical features, the natural resources? All this we can get that knowledge through teaching and learning of this what we call geography. In the same fashion, when we consider the concept of political science, polity simply to prepare the students to the roles of responsibilities and effective citizens of a democratic society. So that means it always gives that knowledge about the responsibilities rather than that of rights. Right is a fundamental right. It is the constitutional responsibility of the government to provide such type of rights. Before that, it gives that a lot of information about what we call the responsibility of the citizen before demanding or before asking the rights. So that's why how can we make the individual to become as a good citizen? Citizenship training and a right and behavioral pattern on democratic lines can be taught through this what we call political science. And it also makes the child to understand the issues and challenges of contemporary Indian environmental, social environmental and economic environmental in the different developmental process. Then it also develops the student's scientific temper by promoting the spirit of inquiry. The spirit of inquiry. So it also promotes the leadership qualities among the children, and social life, social science, social strategies can be made to understand through teaching and learning this political science. That's why it is also must in school curriculum as recommended by 1968 NP and 75, 86 NPE and all other education commissions including 2000 NCF and 2005 NCF National Curriculum Framework of 2005. In the same fashion, why should we teach? The question now about economics. Why should we teach economics? So it is nothing but to enable the student to understand overall concerns of national development, how the development process takes place in a nation, and which factors the development is based on. What are the different things which should be taken into consideration for the process of development? That is nothing but the nation's growth. National growth depends on which factors? All these things can be stated and can be taught through the concept, through the subject or one of the branches of social sciences. It is nothing but economics. To enable the students to understand the role of economic development in social development. So how the social development and economical development are both are interrelated to each other, interdependent to each other, because if there is a proper social development, there should be economical development. What is the relation between the social development as well as what we call economic development? We can teach under the concept of economics. And first of all, it gives a clear picture, clear visualization to the learners about their role of planning. Their role of planning. So planning plays a crucial role in individual's career. So that's why planning of individual's career, planning of family budget, planning of personal budget, all these things. The role of planning takes and makes an individual to make him to lead, to become the citizen or individual in a comfortable and in a successful position. Without planning, we cannot become as a successful person. So in order to make a good decision, good planning, this subject economics is widely useful and helpful. And to enable the students to comprehend the basic principles of socialism and achieving justice in the Constitution of India, to develop in the students in a broad social outlook on economic problems, say that is economic problems and social issues, how both are interrelated to each other. It gives a good and clear visualization and outlook on the basis of the relations with regard to social and economic aspects. And what we call, it also makes individuals to make rational choices, to take the rational choices, and to enable the students to understand the role of unequal distribution of wealth on social setup. So there should be no inequalities. If there is a unequitable distribution of wealth on social group, then the nation never develops. So that's why the distribution of national wealth should be equitably distributed between the different sections of the society, different sections of the people. That should not be vested in the hands of a single person or single group. That should be distributed. What we call a social economical growth takes place only when that government authorities or the nation is following the guidelines of the equitable principles, equitable sharing of nation's wealth. All these things can be taught through the concept of economics, and the students will get a more awareness about their role and their responsibilities, their planning, and to take the rational choices, to understand the relation between social and socio-economic developments on the grounds of social process and economical factors. So in this way, we can teach the social sciences, and we must include and insert in the school curriculum right from primary stage to the secondary stage, even what we call higher secondary stage. Then what about the nature of the curriculum of social sciences? How can we construct the curriculum to teach the social sciences for high school kids or at schooling? There are different approaches to construct the curriculum. Among them, the basic approaches for constructing the curriculum are: we can say that logical approach, and second one is psychological approach, and third one is concentric approach, and fourth one is what we called spiral approach. And chronological approach. And next one is correlation approach. So these are the different areas of what we call approaches in constructing or designing the curriculum of social sciences. Logical means all topics should be sequentially arranged right from lower level to the higher level. That type of approach can be defined as logical approach. There should be a systematic arrangement of the topics right from the lower order to the higher order. In the concept of psychological approach, Then we must consider the abilities of the child, their age, mental ability and aptitude, which is nothing but competencies of the child and the difficulty level of the subject. By considering all the psychological principles, when the topics are arranged, then such type of approach can be defined as what we call it as psychological approach. Then what is the concentric approach? Concentric approach is nothing but it is always proceeds from simple to complex, depending on the nature of the content, depending on the age and stage of the learner, depending on the class of the learner. Then all these topics are arranged in a systematic way which proceeds from concrete to abstract, from simple to complex, or from known to unknown. Such type of systematic arrangement of the concepts can be defined as what we call concentric approach. In this concentric approach, you see, in the concentric approach, it can say, we can explain first of all the local self-government. Suppose if it is a political science. After the concepts explaining on local self-government, then what about what we call it as state government and its functions, policies. Then we can explain about central government. Here you see the concepts are arranged right from the simple, that is gradually we are taking them, the students, the learners, to learn to understand the abstract concepts. First of all, we have supposed to explain about the local self-government, that is panchayat, municipalities, Jilla Parishads. After getting a clear-cut information about the local bodies and its functions, duties and policies, then we can teach about the state government, the formation of state government, the functions of state government, the different what we call duties of the state government. Then we can teach about the abstract concept in this area, that is about the duties and the functions and the formation of central government and its constitutional responsibilities. This method, this approach can be defined as what we call a concentric approach in teaching what we call social studies. In the same fashion, what we call the spiral. The spiral approach to teach the social sciences is nothing but what we call it is just like a simple to complex and easy to difficult, and followed in constructing curriculum. In this approach contain topical divided into different subtopics. That is the difference between, though the fundamental principle is the same in concentric and spiral, both proceeds right from simple to complex, from concrete to abstract, from known to unknown. But in the spiral approach, the concept divides into smaller units. A major unit splits into what we call smaller units. Then for example, to understand, say this is a spiral like this, easy to difficult. The principle is easy to difficult, lower order to higher order. Suppose if you want to explain about the concept of the earth, then how we are supposed to start? We start with the first beginning is the shape of earth, latitudes and longitudes of earth. After the explanation of latitudes and longitude, then we can explain the movements of earth. After movements of earth, then the natural realness of the earth. So the topic is same, that is earth itself, but the major unit, that earth, is bifurcated into smaller units. Each unit will be taught at the different levels, just like a spiral, just like a spring. So this is this concept of teaching can be defined as the spiral approach in the curriculum area, or in the curriculum with regard to the curriculum of social sciences. Then the correlation, chronological means according to the historical events, according to the historical moments, from time to time, what are the different events which has taken place in a particular period. Soon after the completion of the explaining all those events, which has taken place in the particular stage, then we are supposed to move to the second stage. What are the different things which has taken place in the second stage, third stage, fourth stage? In this way, whenever we are explaining all those incidents, historical moments, historical events in the particular stage can be defined as what we call chronological approach of teaching social sciences with regard to its curriculum areas. Then correlation. Correlation approach is nothing but, there are two types of correlation. One is incident correlation and the second one is subject correlation. Incident correlation is nothing but, in this type, teacher always tries to tie up the topic or the event that the pupil is studying with related that knowledge that he has learned somewhere. That is known as incident. So all the topics which are going to be taught by the teacher should be known by the student, or they must have some experience with some other incidents, some other topics. That indirectly the learner is having some previous knowledge about this present topic. Whether there is a correlation between the previous knowledge of the learner and the present topic which is going to be taught by the teacher. That type of correlation can be defined as what we called incident correlation. And subject correlation means correlation within the subject of social studies, geography along with history, history along with polity, polity along with economics. That itself can be defined as subject correlation, or the correlation within the subject. Within the subject means the present subject is social sciences, or correlation social studies with other school subjects. With other school subjects means how the social sciences is correlated with physical science, how social science is correlated with natural science, biology, how the social science is correlated with mathematics. That type of correlation can be defined as subject correlation. So here, friends, you see there are different approaches in the curricular area of teaching and learning social sciences. The first one is logical approach, second one is psychological approach, third one is concentric approach, fourth one is spiral approach, and next one is chronological approach, and the last one is correlational approach. Here, as a part of pedagogical shift, as a part of pedagogical concerns of social sciences, all present textbooks are systematically arranged in the passion or in the approach of what we call concentric approach. But in pedagogical shifting of social sciences in classroom management, the teacher must follow what we call correlation approach also. He must correlate the present subject within the other branches of the same subject. What we call subject correlation, subject within the subject correlation. And he must correlate the social sciences with other subjects. Then only the student can get a clear-cut knowledge and differentiate between social sciences and other subjects. And incident correlation approach is nothing but, that means the present scenario, the topic which is going to be taught, that must have a practical experience for the learner. He must have more or less a little bit experience or touch with the concepts. That type of approach can be defined as incident correlation approach in the curriculum areas of teaching and learning social sciences. In this way, in the curriculum of social sciences, first of all, we have to study about the aims of social studies, objectives of social studies, what are the different curricular areas of social studies. In the area of curriculum, the construction of curriculum, the approach which is quite suitable for constructing the social sciences curriculum, organization, its development, all these things we have to read step by step. These all are the fundamental concepts of teaching social sciences with regard to its curriculum. Thank you.